Hello everyone, this is Rich here. Welcome to another very exciting tutorial, and in today's video we are going to create our very own planetary texture. So a couple of weeks ago I released this little video over here where I just made some shots in space with some planetary textures that I made. So this is essentially what we're going to be creating. We're going to do some of the space backgrounds as well. I'll show you how I did that. In another video I'm going to show you how I did some more intricate planets like this one and this one. So this is basically going to be like a part one where I'm just going to go over the basis on how I created everything, and then we can go into the fun stuff like this or some of the ones like this. So let me go to that. So I'm here in Photoshop CS6, and this is where we're going to get started. So I'm going to go File. I'm going to create a new project, 2048 by 1024. The resolution I'm going to keep at 200, and I'm just going to leave it as untitled. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to choose OK. So now I have some assets here from textures.com. You can go get a whole bunch of different things from there. So I have some here on the side. I'm going to import, hit enter just to bring them all in. These are the ones that I found to work out for this tutorial because I've tried this about 1,000 times. So I'm going to select all these. I'm going to right click. I'm going to choose rasterize layers. It's going to be cut off a little bit there, but it's right there. Rasterize layers. And I'm also not too familiar with the keyboard shortcuts in Photoshop because I don't really do much in Photoshop. I'm more of the After Effects person, so bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to start with Concrete Bear 0053. This is what we're going to start with. So I'm going to hit Control T, and I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. I'm going to just shove it in the corner up there. Maybe just a hair more. Just bring it right up there in the corner. Just hit Enter. So now I'm going to hit Control J and duplicate it. And I'm just going to move it around, rotate it. You put it in the corner here. And I'm going to keep doing the same thing, just duplicating it. And duplicate it. Overlap it. I want to take a lot of these. I want to make them smaller because the smaller they are, the more detail they have. So we can actually just put these like right there, like that. Just going to duplicate that and put it over here. And just keep going. So let's take all these and let's merge the layers. It's always good to keep duplicates of your layers in case you make a mistake and you lost the footage or you lost the picture and you want to import it back in again, but I'm just going to go ahead and bypass that. So I'm going to hit merge layers. And now we just have this. This is one solid layer like so. And I'll hit S for the stamp tool. And I'm going to alt click, let's say on this one right here. Just start adding and blending and duplicating. So I want to create a random image. Something like so. Yeah, definitely want to get rid of all these seams here. Something like that. You take this and fill these in over here. Something like that. Okay, and once you have something that you're happy with, move on to the next step. So I'm going to take a concrete new 0044 here. I'm going to put that above it, and the first thing I'm going to do is tint it black and white. So I'm going to go to Image and Adjustments, go black and white. Now this is through a lot of trial and error that I did. And some things seem to work out. So essentially we're going to set it to color burn, and it's going to give us a nice texture, it's going to give us a nice shade. But before we do that, we're going to leave it at normal. And as usual, I'm going to take this and put this up in the corner here. Now I actually want to preserve the majority of this. I'm going to leave this one as is, and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'll scale it down. I'm going to do the same exact thing as I did before with our bottom layer here. Perfect. Let's take all this, And again, we'll merge them together. So merge layers. And again, we'll take the stamp tool, alt click, and just start blending some things in here. Just do that. Take a lot of the smaller ones and keep like a lot of smaller detail. So I'm actually going to leave this guy here. I like the way that looks. Actually, as a matter of fact, what I'm going to do, and I never did this in any other attempts or my other videos, but I'm going to actually just take this and just do layer via cut. And I'm actually just going to move it over to the middle right there. And let's take the eraser tool and I'm just going to blend that in. Just like so. And we'll merge these two together. Merge layers. And again, we'll take the stamp tool. We'll alt click. And just keep re-adding in that detail. So now let's take concrete. Which one is it? This way, yeah, this one. Concrete Rough 0037. I'm going to put that one right on top, and I'm going to give it the black and white treatment here. So I'm going to just go black and white, choose OK. And since we still have the stamp tool still selected, I'm going to make a few adjustments here. Just alt click and just change some of this up. Like so. And this one we're actually going to set to overlay, and that's going to give us some nice texture. Even just this one layer, we have a nice decent moon going on over here or something. The possibilities are just ridiculous. But I actually forgot. We're going to set this one here to color burn, and look at that. It adds a lot of nice texture to our layer below, and it gives it some nice color. So concrete rough, we're going to leave that to overlay. And, whoops, I'm going to take this again, just shove it in the corner. And just maybe move this over here. Take this guy, rotate it. Maybe add some more detail there. Oops, there we go. J. Maybe we'll actually take this one and scale it down. We'll add some small detail. It's all about the detail. Even finer detail up here. And this is like turning out to be like a great asteroid texture that you can use. Just add some of the small ones down here. Like so. There. So let's maybe actually take the larger one here and just overlay it right there. That's cool. So let's take all these guys again and we will merge them together. So merge layers, and we will set this back to overlay. I'm actually going to take the eraser tool and maybe just take away some of the image here in the middle so it doesn't look like it's repeating so much. But look at all that fine detail. That's just ridiculously amazing to me. Like I said, you can turn this into a rock face. You could turn this into ice and asteroid. Just wow. I'm loving it. Alright, so now I'm going to take concrete bunker damage and we're going to do the same exact thing. We can actually even just set this one to overlay itself, and it adds a little bit of color. And I'm going to take the eraser tool and just get rid of that. A little bit of this. And again, we could just shift it around. Control T, maybe just actually scale that. Duplicate it. Move this around. It's all about just random positioning. Sometimes you don't want to repeat everything. Okay, so even that looks cool. And again, take all these guys, we will merge the layers together, And we'll set this back to overlay. And if you don't like the colors of this one, you can always just go to image and just turn it to black and white, and that'll just add even finer detail, but I think I like it with the bits of color in it. And this is exactly what I'm going to work with here. And let's duplicate the layers again. Choose OK. These are going to be our backups, so I'm actually going to take these guys down here, and I'm going to merge them together to make our final image, and I'll turn these guys off. And next I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to rename these. This top one's going to be, top one's going to be our diffuse vid, our diffuse texture. The one on the bottom is actually going to be our normal map, or normal texture. Let's leave it as normal. Okay, so if you go into Google and you type in NVIDIA normal map filter, you go to NVIDIA texture tools right here, and that'll bring you to NVIDIA GameWorks, and you want to download this top one here because this is a tool that we're going to be using to create our normal map right in Photoshop. So you just download it, then install it, and I'll show you what that does right now. So if I go to our normal map here, and then I type in, if I go into filter, I'll go to NVIDIA tools and normal map filter. And first of all, I'm actually going to change this back down to 10 because I was experimenting with something before. And I do have a bit of an issue. So you see, this is how it's going to crop and save our image. So we don't want that. So we need to actually crop it. So I'm going to hit cancel. I'll come to our normal map and I'll just click the crop tool and just hit enter and hit the check mark, and it's cropped. And we'll do the same thing with this. Just hit enter and check. Perfect. So if you want to just double check it, just drag it. You can see there's nothing else. And same thing with the normal map, nothing else behind it. Okay, so with our normal map selected, let's go back to filter, NVIDIA tools, and normal map filter. And these are the settings I find to work fine for me. Experiment and play with it if you want, but just take a second, copy this down. In the meantime, I'm going to click the 3D preview button here so we can see what it looks like. Once it loads, there we go. And you can see it's got a 3D light that passes around. You can just check this out. That looks pretty cool. Alright, so I'm actually going to roll with that. And I'm just going to choose OK. And again, feel free to experiment. There's a lot of fine detail that you can always introduce by doing separate filters and just blending them in. But I'm going to keep this as is. We have our diffuse layer here. So I'm actually going to take this next step into After Effects because I really don't know how to do it in Photoshop. But if you are a Photoshop expert, then you can just follow along with me. So I'm actually just going to save the file. I'm going to go to my save location if I can find it. There we go. And I'll pull this planet texture. And I'm going to save it just as a Photoshop file because I'm going to import the Photoshop file into After Effects. So I'm just going to click Save and OK. And if you give me 1 second, I'm going to load up After Effects. Okay, so I'm here in After Effects, and I'm going to create a new composition. I'm just going to do 1920 1080, 24 frames, 10 seconds long is fine, and I'm just going to choose OK. Now I'm going to import that Photoshop file, and find it, and planet texture, choose Open. Editable layer styles, import kind composition or footage, but just keep it as composition. Just choose OK. Now I'm going to open that up. So here we have our normal and diffuse texture. So I'm just going to take it, Control X to take it out of here. Bring it into this comp, Control V. And this is where the planetary fun begins. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-compose our diffusion texture. Control Shift C, or you could just go down to Layer and then pre-compose at the bottom. And leave all the attributes. I'm just going to choose OK. And I'm also going to fix this. You guys didn't see that. that wasn't there. So I'm going to double click on our diffusion comp. And anybody who saw the video Copilot solar tutorial, there's a project file that comes with it that shows you how to make a seamless texture. So I'm basically going to be following the same thing. So this is the video version of it, so just follow along. So I'm going to take our diffusion texture and I'm going to duplicate it twice. And I'll turn the top two copies off. I'm going to take our bottom layer and I'm going to type in polar coordinates. We'll drop that onto there. And we want polar to rectangular. I'm going to turn the interpolation up to 100%. So now it flips the image around and basically makes it spherical. And we can also add linear wipe. And transition completion we're going to do 50%. And the wipe angle is 0. And essentially what we're doing is just cutting it in half. No really reason why you'd have to do that in this case. For the second one, you'd have to. So I'm actually going to take these. I'm going to copy them, turn our middle one on here, and paste it on. And we're going to make a couple of changes here. So I'm actually going to turn this back down to 0, and I'm going to turn the linear wipe off. The first thing I'm going to do is type in transform. I'm going to throw the transform on top. It will let me. Or we'll just put it on top. We're going to set the scale to -100, which is essentially just going to flip the image upside down. So if we do that, then we come back to our polar coordinates. We can set this up to 100%. And we're going to duplicate the transform, Control D, and we're going to put it after the polar coordinates. So now it flips it right side up. I mean, essentially, you could just do it like that if you turn the polar coordinates off, but I'm just going to keep it on there. Okay, so now we have our linear wipe is next. Let's turn that on, and we're going to set the transition completion still to 50%. The wipe angle is going to be 180 degrees because we want to flip it around so it blends in nicely. Alright, so let's take our top layer here. Let's turn our top layer on. And what I'm going to do is the general rule of thumb is we want it to be right about in here. So that way we get our polar caps looking pretty good. But I'm actually going to delete this mask and I'm going to take the pen tool. I'm going to turn this off. And I'm just actually going to come in here and just do this. Just add some random variation to it. So you don't have to do this. You can still do the rectangular one. Alright, we'll turn this on. And I'm going to hit F for feathering. And I'm going to feather this out just so it blends nicely like that. And there we have our polar version of this. So let's take this, let's pre-compose it. Move all attributes. I'm going to call this one polar. And I'm going to duplicate our polar comp. I'm going to turn it off. And on the bottom copy here, we're going to type in offset. We're going to drop offset onto the bottom one. And we're going to shift the center until we see the seam, which is right there. And if you notice, if I just back this up a little bit, the size of our comp is 2048 by 1024. Yet the shift center, if you notice, the seam is basically at 2048. So if you have a composition, let's say 4096 by 2048, you want to shift the center to 4096. If you have a 1024 by 512, you just do it to 1024. So in this case, it's 2048, so I'm going to shift the center to 2048. So I'm going to take our top one up here. I'm going to turn it back. I'll keep it off for now. And what I want to do is get rid of the seam by just taking the pen tool and just drawing a little box around it. And we'll turn it back on. And I'm going to hit F and I'm going to feather it just so it blends and we don't have that seam anymore. And just like that, we now have our seamless polar texture. And by the way, I never described, the offset is actually just repeating the edges together. So that way it blends in very nicely. So if we close this out, And we can close this out. We don't need it. If we actually come over here and type in CC sphere is what we want. You can just drop it on there. And you can see, to full res, turn our diffuse normal off. If I just come down to the shading, turn the ambient up to 100 and the diffuse down to 0 to make it even. We could check the rotation out here. And there you see we have no seam. And our polar caps are actually pretty good. I mean, there's a slight bit of stretching, so we can actually go into that and fix it. Maybe here. Which one has the mask? I think this one. This one has the mask. So you know what? I'm actually going to hit M. I'm going to delete the mask. We'll just do it this way. Just do it like that. F, and we'll feather it out till it blends. Maybe just a bit more. Let's see how that looks. It looks a little bit better. Still a bit of stretching, but hey, you can't win them all, can you? Although this is CC sphere, so sometimes it doesn't work properly, but this is where I'm actually going to go into elements, which is what we're going to do next. So let's delete CC sphere. And actually, before we do element, we do the same exact thing for the normal map. So if you just follow the same exact steps, all you have to do is actually just take your normal map, turn it on, pre-compose it. There we go. Leave all the attributes and choose OK. Just follow the same exact steps. You even can just come here, take this, Control C, come back into here, duplicate it, Control V, and just do the same thing, repeat the process. Just copy paste, that way it'll be exactly the way your diffusion texture is. So I'm going to pause the recording and then just finish that up. Okay, so I finished that up, and now we have our normal map that is exactly the same. So we have those guys. So I'm going to turn these guys off. And let's start setting some stuff up in here. So I'm going to create a new black solid down here. So layer, new and solid. I'll just leave it black. And since I kind of tried this before, let's actually start with this. I'm going to create a black solid 5000 by 5000. Make sure it's black and choose OK. Actually, it could really be pretty much any color for this. But I'm going to type in fractal noise. I'm going to drop that on there. And we're going to create a quick background of stars. So I'm going to set the scale down to 1. Just increase the contrast and decrease the brightness. And we'll set it for motion blur. We'll add 3D. We're well on our way already. So let's take it, oops, oh, that's fine. Let's take it, drag it all the way back, and we'll scale it back up. I'm also going to hit AA and select Accept Lights to Off. So now I'm going to create another new black solid. And this is going to be comp size, and choose OK. And we're going to type in element. Drop that onto there. Okay, so now that element is loaded up, we're going to go to our custom layers, custom texture maps, and we're going to choose our diffuse for the top one, and for layer 2 is going to be our normal map. Now let's click the scene setup. We're going to create a sphere. Segments I'm going to put to 12 just to make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to click normalize size. So that's cool. So we can come down to our default material here for diffuse. We're going to click on our diffusion texture, choose OK, and normal map, choose our normal, and choose OK. So we have an issue. Even if I turn off draft textures, the poles do not look fantastic. On top of the fact the whole thing just does not look good. So I'm going to set the normal map to about 75%, maybe less. This is pretty much just play around with it and see whatever works for you. So maybe I'll just leave it at 15. I'm going to set the glossiness down to 0. The specular multiplier I'll set down to 0, and the environment I'm actually going to set down to 0 because I want this to be as natural as possible. So if I go into the sphere model here, in order to fix our little polar problem here, I'm actually going to go to UV mapping and change it to sphere. And that fixes everything right up, like so. So now we have a little planet. Okay, so now let's set up a camera and do some animating. So I'm going to click layer, oh, should have selected layer, click new camera, 35mm is fine. And let's also make a new null object. And here's a little trick. I'm going to go to the top view, set our null to 3D, and I'm going to pull it back towards the camera. Just like so. And I'm going to position it right about there. And I'm going to parent the camera to the null object. So now we can use the null object to move the camera around, and it's almost pretty much as if it's natural. And let's go back to our active camera. Come up here. So let's hit P, Shift R, and we'll just set a keyframe for everything. And I'm actually going to pull the camera back a bit. Way back. Maybe give it a slight rotation. So that way when we come in, we can just come out to here. And zoom into the planet a bit. Like so. And we can set the rotation back to 0 degrees. And maybe just slightly shift it over. Like so. Maybe something like that. Okay. And so now we have our little camera animation. But it kind of looks a bit boring. So let's actually... I can turn motion blur on. I'm actually going to keep it off of the tutorial. So let's add some additional elements. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to import a few files. And assets, I'm going to go to clouds that I have saved. I'm going to choose that one. And I'll choose that one. Choose open. Let's take these guys. I'm going to drop them below element. And let's pre-compose them individually. So Control-Shift-C. Leave all the attributes. Choose OK. And Control-Shift-C. And leave all the attributes. OK. So let's grab this one. Double-click on it. And we're going to add key lights. And I'm just going to choose the color in right there. And set the gain to 105. That'll be fine. And then I'm also going to add color correction and tint. Just so it makes it nice and grayscale. I'm actually just going to take these. Control-C. Double click on this one. Oh, that's actually not the one we want. Take this one and select it, Control-V to get the same effect. And let's close that out. So now we have our little bit of atmosphere. And let's motion blur, and we'll make them 3D. So I'm actually going to come to the point where the camera is fairly straight. And I'm going to put this one above element. Move it up. Let's bring it back a bit, so maybe it goes past the camera. And scale it down a bit. We can move it to place like that. Maybe we go flying past it. Alright, that looks pretty cool. Let's take this guy, scale it up a bit. Like so, just reposition it, push it back just a little bit, scale it up, see what that looks like. So now we have our little nebulae something. Okay, let's actually maybe move this forward a bit. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Except for this guy back here. Just stretch it out a bit. There we go. So I'm also going to add the Video Copilot's Color Vibrance. And I'll add it to this. And maybe give it a bluish tint. Like that maybe. And we'll just add it to that as well. You give us a lighter blue. So just give it some finesse to it. Maybe let's duplicate this back one. Control D. Let's push it back just a little bit further. Let's just scale it. Just shove it into place up here. Let's change the color to maybe more of a greenish hue. That looks pretty good. Just choose OK. That way we just add a little more depth to it. Zoom in a bit. We have something like that. Maybe we'll take this guy here, duplicate that guy, push it forward just slightly, maybe stretch it out like crazy. Something like that. Push it forward a bit more. And obviously we'll change the color. Maybe we'll make it a little bit purple. Okay. So we come in. And of course we add some motion blur to it. You know, it'll change it up real nice. Let's actually take the blue one here. Maybe just stretch it out like so. Alright, so that looks pretty cool. It'll have motion blur. And we'll turn the motion blur on for the comp as well. Let that load up. Alright. So the next thing I'm going to add, the piece de resistance, is I'm going to add a light. Point light is fine. Maybe I'll change it to like a slight bluish color. Or purple. Something like that. Choose OK. Intensity, that's fine. 123 and just choose OK. Go down to half res. And let's come over to here. I want this to be upwards like so. Now let's take these guys, AA, turn accept lights to off. And the same with this, AA, accept lights to off. So it's not really affected by the lighting. And let's do a quick RAM preview and see what that looks like. Okay, so let's see what we got so far. So that looks pretty cool. I mean, I think the planet maybe itself can be just a little bit bigger. So let's take our null. Well, let's actually, no. Let's, I'm sorry, let's go to element. Go to group 1, since it's on group 1. Particle look, and maybe let's just increase the size. Give us some perspective. Okay, so let's see what we got. That's very cool. You can always add some more atmosphere. Maybe if you have a particular, you can add a little bit of smoke, or you can add more cloud textures. But I'm just going to leave this as is for now. And I actually think that looks really cool. It's a nice looking little planet. So I think I'm going to leave it off on this one. I think I'm going to do another video where I'm going to show you how to do one with maybe that has like continents, if you want to say, on it. And add some clouds. We'll add atmospheric glow. So stay tuned for, I guess, quote-unquote part 2. I hope you enjoyed this part. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Any questions, comments, concerns, please leave it in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next one.